It all began in 1761 in Ireland when Henry Fulton was born. He was educated at Trinity College Dublin, completing a Bachelor of Arts in 1792 and receiving outstanding academic records in the classics and mathematics. It was there he became interested in the Irish people's cause to win freedom from the English. Following this, he was ordained to the ministry of the established Church of Ireland and became rector of St. Crona's, Muncie, in whose parish he served for a short time. At that time, Henry Fulton was a dedicated follower of Wolfe Tone, the leader of the United Irishmen, and in 1788, during the Irish Rebellion, Fulton was convicted of seditious practices and sentenced to transportation for life, despite the fact he appeared to be more sympathetic to the cause than an active participant. At that time, he was married to Anne and had 2 children who fortunately were allowed to accompany him to New South Wales. Fulton's friends declared that his confession was extorted by fear of a species of torture, at that time too common. Not long after his arrival in the colony, he was granted a conditional pardon by Governor King and sent as an assistant chaplain to the Hawkesbury until 1801, when he was sent to Norfolk Island, where he remained until 1805 and was granted a full pardon. The following year, he returned to Sydney and became acting chaplain for the colony in the absence of Reverend Samuel Marsden. In January 1808, the new governor, William Bligh, appointed Fulton as his domestic chaplain, and Fulton became a great friend and supporter of the governor, who was attempting to constrain the officers of the New South Wales Rum Corps in their monopoly of trade in the colony. Fulton was dining with Bligh in Government House when Major Johnson and some of his officers stormed in and arrested Bligh, who was confined to home arrest and remained there until the arrival of Governor Lachlan Macquarie on January 1st, 1810, who ordered all the witnesses to accompany Bligh to London, including Reverend Henry Fulton, to give evidence at the court-martial of Major Johnston. At the trial, Henry Fulton gave important evidence against Johnston. Upon returning to Sydney in May 1812, Lachlan Macquarie appointed Fulton to the position of chaplain at Castlereagh in Richmond. Following this, he began a school, the Parsonage House School, for young gentlemen in his home in July 1814. The boys ranged in age from 5 years to secondary school age. This school was the first secondary school in Australia. There, he taught classics, Greek and Latin, mathematics, and modern languages such as French and German. One of the most prominent of his pupils being Charles Thomson, who became Australia's first native-born poet. Thomson's first and longest piece, Retrospect, praises Fulton as a teacher and pastor. Newspapers at the time praised Fulton's dedication and commitment to his beliefs. The first teacher to take up the work of secondary education in Australia was the Reverend Henry Fulton. He arrived in Sydney by the ship Minerva on January 3rd, 1800. He'd been accused of taking part in the Irish Rebellion of 1798 and was deported in consequence. After a short stay in Sydney, when he obtained his freedom, he was appointed assistant chaplain. Henry Fulton continued his ministry at Castlereagh and throughout the Penrith district. In 1838, Reverend Henry Fulton became the first minister of St. Stephen's Church, Penrith, until his death on the 10th of November 1840. There's a tablet inside the church which reads, "To the glory of God and in memory of Reverend Henry Fulton, first incumbent of this church. You died 10th of November 1840, erected by his descendants on the occasion of the 75th anniversary of the church, 1914. Fulton is believed to be buried in a family vault in Castlereagh Cemetery. In 1997, Henry Fulton Public School was opened in recognition of a man who was much respected in the Penrith area. As well as being a clergyman, teacher and farmer, he was also a magistrate, and his work was recognised by naming the streets surrounding Penrith Anglican Church after him, Henry and Fulton Streets. Marjorie Corton wrote a novel, Renegade, which documents the life of Henry Fulton and the many achievements he accomplished during his 81 years of life.